News just in, a suicide bomber has attacked a mosque in Dalori quarters in Borno State. TVC News correspondent Kolomi Dala reports that the gender of the bomber is still unknown.
All right, as we get the report, aside from the bomber, one person was also killed in the attack. We are following and will bring you details of this report and development from Borno State.
Okay, so let's start off with our first big story. Right from his campaign days, the U.S. President Donald Trump has been talking tough on immigration.
Last week, he signed an executive order barring citizens of 7 Muslim-majority countries from entering the United States for the next 90 days and suspended admission of all refugees for 120 days.
Now, the affected countries are Iran, Iraq, Sudan, Somalia, Yemen, Libya and Syria. Hundreds of protesters have taken to the streets at Los Angeles International Airport in protest against Donald Trump's executive order to restrict immigration from Muslim countries.
Now, the protesters marched through the ticketing area of the international terminal, chanting slogans and carrying banners calling for unity in the fight against the Trump administration. The American Civil Liberties Union, which sought the temporary stay, said it would help 100 to 200 people with valid visas or refugee status who are detained in transit or at U.S. airports following the order.
Now, TVC News' Detola Ademola caught up with some protesters, and this is what they had to say.
Immediately after President Trump's announcement, about 100 people gathered at this plaza in Washington, D.C. to denounce the president's proposed crackdown on sanctuary cities. Many among these crowds have lived in the U.S. for years without documentation.
My family came from India in the 1950s. I think anybody from any country should have the same right to be able to move, to migrate, and to call a new place their home, just like we call D.C. home.
So we need the D.C. councils and the local officials to be vigilant, relentless, and tireless in protecting our rights in this city.
The U.S. president strongly believes that sanctuary jurisdictions across the country willfully violate federal laws in an attempt to shield illegal immigrants.
When President Trump promised during his campaign to deport illegal immigrants back to their countries, many people did not take him seriously. But on Wednesday, the president signed executive orders seeking to strip federal funding of sanctuary states and cities that harbor illegal immigrants.
Our order also does the following: ends the policy of catch and release at the border, requires other countries to take back their criminals. They will take them back. Cracks down on sanctuary cities. Empowers ICE officers to target and remove those who pose a threat to public safety. Calls for the hiring of another 5,000 Border Patrol officers.
My message to President Trump is to be very considerate of the people and of the history of this country, and be considerate of the people that build the history of this country.
My message to President Trump is for him to chill out and to remember that we, the people, even though he's the president, we still can protect each other.
My message to President Trump is D.C. is here to stand with all of our community, with our vulnerable residents. The executive orders did not have a lot of meat. There was not a lot of substance to them. It was a signal. But I think what he's in for is a bigger fight than he imagined.
Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser has, however, promised to protect immigrants in the city.
Despite the immigration status, everybody will still get the same amount of service, the same amount of protection as anybody else.
Sanctuary cities gained traction in the 1980s after Los Angeles told its police force to stop questioning people solely to determine their immigration status. Detola Ademola, TVC News, Washington, D.C., USA.
Has already started right here as to the propriety or otherwise of this immigration ban. One of the many executive orders by Donald Trump in less than 2 weeks after he took over as president of the United States.
Well, it's just about 2 weeks. People are saying there's so much action already.
It's amazing.
And they're looking forward to the next 1 month, the first 100 days, how it's going to be, and then the first one year, and the first tenure.
Going down. Then the point is, all of these moves by Donald Trump, will they be for the good of not just America or the rest of the world, or for bad? Only time really will tell.
He is moving this hashtag MAGA, M-A-G-A, Make America Great Again. And as far as his philosophy is concerned,
America great
he said this is going to make America great again. So that's it.
All right, we're joined now by a lawyer and political consultant, Curtis Adigba. Good morning and thanks for joining us. He's a lawyer and political analyst.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, and we also have Achike Chude, a public affairs analyst. Good morning to you. Thanks for joining us on the Breakfast Show. Now, from immigration policy, war with Mexico, America First policy, friendship with Putin, plans to move U.S. embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, and all of that, all coming from Trump in less than 2 weeks. Of course, even before the elections, he had laid his card on the table very clearly, and Americans went to the polls and voted for him. So what do you make of all of this going on right now before we come to the immigration policy?
Major issues, some of the things you just enumerated, friendship with Russia, Putin, and all of that, immigration and all the other statements that were deemed controversial during the campaign period. One thing that is clear is that you're not going to have a lackluster government in the United States, any way you look at it. There is what we are seeing is a flow, from before the election to this moment. He courted controversy and he has continued along that path. But I think it is critical that we also remember that he did not campaign in secret. He campaigned openly. He made a table the issues before the American public and so on. And what he's doing now is to live up to those campaign promises that he made. Now the value judgment on the desirability of some of these policies, I mean, it's a different thing. But the reality is that he's walking the talk. He's not taking his time. He has started all of those things that he has said. And we must also remember, like I said, he didn't campaign in secret. He laid his cards before the American people, and he was elected on the basis of some of these
campaign promises.
Yes, he had said he won the election in America. The people who voted for him heard him, what he wanted to do, and on the basis of that, after weighing up all of those, they felt he was a better candidate than Hillary Clinton. And so we must look at it first of all from that perspective, that this is a man that is living up to the statements, the words that he has made before that election. We get into now looking at it from maybe from in terms of the value of actually some of the actions that he's carrying out. But like I said, you're not going to see a lackluster presidency. It's going to be a presidency that is full of action. Because, and let me just make this point, the reality is that he is trying to change the philosophical construct of the American, government itself. Do not forget that the battle between whether America would engage in the international scene and whether America will run an isolationist, government has been a battle that has gone on for so many years. Of course, we are going to look at the merits and the demerits of the arguments later.
All right, Curtis, let me come to you on this. Just like Achike has said, these were the campaign promises he tabled before Americans. And they said they like it, and they voted him in. So the same people are now saying, we don't like this thing. So
is it some kind of buyer's remorse?
Well, let me start by saying that in politics and in campaigns, you say to the people what they want to hear. But once you are elected into the office, you need to make that critical transition from campaign mode to governing mode. Because during campaigns, issues are blurred and voters are in a bind. It's not as if you're looking at issues specifically, the pros and the cons. There's a lot of excitement, the campaign atmosphere. Now, the reality dawns when you get into government. And I want people to understand that America is not like Nigeria or any other country in the world. America's exceptionalism, America's strength is built on the diversity of that country. And the people know that they own their government. It is not the government that owns the people. Thomas Jefferson said years ago,
that it is liberty when government is afraid of the people, but it is tyranny when the people are afraid of their government. And so Donald Trump campaigned on some of these issues, but he has also varied the implementation of these issues. Now, I remember I attended one of his rallies in Leesburg, Virginia, and it was like a war zone. I mean, you could see. I, as a black man, stood out like a sore thumb. And so many times, some of his supporters came to me. I wanted to know while I was in his campaign rally. I did a post on Facebook on this issue. At the point I had to buy his cap, Make America Great Again, so at least I can blend. It was such a horrible place to be.
And that war mood seems to be sustained right now. If you listen to international media, the urgency, the kind of tension that seems to be all pervasive.
Look,
is that a good thing?
No. I think what he doesn't understand is that America did not become great by isolating itself. America became great because it took the world leadership on critical issues. Look, if you understand the issues, America is not the best country in the world. In fact, there are indices that shows that countries as small as Denmark are leading America in most critical areas. But what makes America great is the fact that it's a diverse nation. It has got free enterprise, liberty to be what you want to be, and to accomplish whatever you want to accomplish, depending on your talents. It is a country that says to you, though you must have been chased away from your own country, but here we have welcomed you into the liberty.
And we can be home to you.
And we can be home to you.
So all right, Curtis.
When you want to tamper with that, you know, there's going to be bias remorse, and that's exactly what you are saying.
Exactly.
Okay.
Curtis, we'll come back to this. Let's go on a break, and we go ahead with the program. But know that we're going out right now on TVC Entertainment. The viewers there can continue with the program on Concert Channel 190 and DSTV Channel 418.
Of course, you can continue to watch the show on Go TV 45 and ACTV 510. Stay with us.
All right. It's so much fun behind the cameras in here but I won't let you see that. We have the privilege to.
Absolutely.
It's really wonderful. Thanks for staying with us on TVC Breakfast. We are discussing U.S. immigration laws by the President Donald Trump and reactions from across the world within the United States and even from others across the world. We have with us in the studio Achike Chude, political analyst. He has been with us. We also have Curtis Adigba, a lawyer and a political consultant with us right in here. Now, Achike, I'd like you to take it from where he stopped.
Yeah, two points that he made, I slightly disagree.
Okay.
Of course, a lot of things he said, I agree. But the reality is that America today finds itself at a crossroads, and definitely, you know, you have to have a new way of looking at things. Yes, I agree that America has had to engage, you know, with the rest of the world, like he said, and also I agree. America is so powerful. America, politically, I mean, the biggest, you know, the democracy or the best democracy in the world, as some people describe it. America has the greatest military capability in the world. America is the richest, you know, country in the world, and so on. So, in a way, when America coughs, the rest of the world catches cold. That is the reality. But he talks about America's engagement in the world, and today it is very clear that one of the most hated countries in the world is the United States of America because of its engagement in the international arena over the years. That has brought a lot of enmity to the United States. We are talking about America not being safe today. You're talking about America's engagement in the Middle East, for instance, all over the years. You're talking about the rise of ISIS, you know, and some of these other, you know, militant or radical, you know, Islamic organizations and so on. You cannot remove it from the engagement, from the interest that America has had in the Middle East and in parts of the world. That is what, you know, is responsible for the crisis in terms of international terrorism that we're having today. You know, And so, of course, you know that there will not be an ISIS today if there was not a Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein was possible. The removal of Saddam Hussein, made it possible for ISIS to thrive, and some of the other terrorist organizations
empowered
that have
by
also
Saddam
gone beyond,
Hussein, empowered by the same United States.
Yes,
now let me take it from what you've said.
So, yeah.
You paint a picture that America indeed is a great nation, has always been and continues to be. But you have a Donald Trump now who is trying to make the rest of the world believe that America is a victim of globalization, a victim of free trade, a victim of NAFTA, and all of that. How do you?
I do not exactly think that America is a victim, of that.
America, a picture.
That's a picture he's painting.
America has been the one driving, global economy. Has been the one, pushing the imperialistic agendas to all parts of the world and so on. There's a little bit of contradiction in the statements, Trump makes. The reality is that America has to ask itself whether, it can be safer if it disengages, from the rest of the world. And
That's
not exactly the way he is putting it, but the reality is that America is now in a very dangerous situation because of its continuous engagement with the rest of the world. That's another one. And then two, he said something. Yes, America is a melting point of various civilizations and the rest. But the reality is that you need to begin to ask yourself questions. When a country has problems, when its political leadership cannot get its act right, and when that country descends to chaos and crisis and so on, the next thing is for the citizens to flee and go to places of safe sanctuary like the United States and the rest. I think some of us need to begin to ask ourselves critical questions. Why people have to run away from their countries to go to other countries for safety? If you cannot be protected within the confines of your own borders, why you have to seek that sanctuary and get all of those protection within the sanctuary of somebody else's country and so on? If we don't ask ourselves these critical questions and we continue to encourage the outflow of refugees from the African continent and from other parts of the world to countries where their own people have made their country great, then it means that we have not even tried to put ourselves on the path.
Well, the paradigm is shifting here, because the issue of humanity seem to be taking over, because when you're talking about the political dichotomies of you belong to that country and I belong to this country, the United Nations is trying to come up with a paradigm shift of humanity, where you can leave that country if you have. Let Curtis.
I think we need to understand the basic issues here, and there are rules and laws of international engagement. Look, when you take up responsibility, there are duties that flows from that responsibility.
Yes.
America assumed the leadership of the world because of her efforts and developmental stride. Look, when you talk about refugees, let's ask ourselves a basic question. How did these refugees even come about? It was because of the role played by America in trying to bring about liberty, in quote, or democratic governance to some of these countries. Iraq was a stable country. Saddam Hussein, yes, was dictatorial, but how many would Saddam Hussein have killed in his entire lifetime, even if you have to roll it over 5 times?
Libya too.
Libya was a stable country, but then they invaded these countries. And because of the internal conflicts, all right, some people had to leave their countries. And under the Geneva Convention, which America is a signatory to, America is bound to receive some of these refugees after they have been vetted by the United Nations agency for that purpose. So that's one point. The second point, what he said about America being a crisis. Countries go through evolution. And that is why you hear Americans say, working towards a perfect union. It is not a perfect country. It's a work in progress, and things have got to change. Now, to assume that anybody who is a refugee is a terrorist is preposterous.
So is everybody now reacting to that change? Like they say,
look, let me tell you,
is difficult. You have almost all the institutions in America, from the media, the defense. Every institution seems to be on the other side from Donald Trump.
I'll explain that to you.
Now, the real issue here is there anything intrinsically wrong with some of the moves he's making? Or is it the way he's doing it that's the problem?
It is wrong, and the way he's going about it is also wrong. Let me explain to you. One, he made an executive order on immigration.
Yes.
Like he explained. he listed 7 countries. As I speak to you now, the list has grown to 9. And he says, people from these countries cannot come. But what he did during the campaigns was that he promised extreme vetting. It's not going to stop them, but they'll be vetted extremely. Okay? Now you came and you said, the reason why you are doing this is because you want to prevent an occurrence of what happened on September 11th.
Well, let's not forget that this is temporary now.
Yes,
90
but
days
the point
and
here is
120 days.
The point is that the countries you have listed so far, no terrorists came from that country to bomb America. And the countries, you should, look, Saudi Arabia,
exactly.
UAE, these are countries where you have personal investments. So you left them out of the list. And look, the second point I want to make is that after September 9/11, no American has died from a terrorist bullet that is a non-American. Omar Martin, who killed 49 people at the Post nightclub for gay in Orlando, is an American. All right?
The church shooter?
Yes, the church shooter, Dan Raff, is an American. Major Hassan Nida, who killed 13 people at Fort Hood, is an American. All right? Farouk and his wife, Tashfin Malik, are Americans.
So the war that America is fighting is actually a war from within, and
from
not
within.
necessarily from...
So there is no data or evidence to suggest that terrorists from outside America has killed Americans. Rather, what you have are homegrown terrorists or people who were radicalized online by Anwar Awalaki, who also radicalized our own Nigerian Abdulmutalab. And he was killed in Yemen by a drone strike ordered by President Obama. So the way he's going about this, you know, because you see, it completely changes the values and the morals of the American society. And that's why everybody is up in arm against him.
Yeah, quickly, before we go on break here, Achike, in all of this, the policies themselves and the way he's going about the policies, are you comfortable or you're not comfortable
I'm
with
not
either?
I'm not exactly comfortable with the policies. The reality is that I think he acted too soon. He did not take his time to exactly study the situation and then, you know, perhaps, you know, do all that he's been doing from a completely different perspective. But the reality, you know, is that you cannot do away with the fact that of the possibility of some of these refugees mixing in with the people that are coming in, the terrorists mixing in with the refugees. That, I mean, he says that there's no direct linkage with those Americans that have been killed and so on, but the bombings that took place in Germany for the very first time in a very long time were traceable to the activities of some of these terrorists.
Trump is not president of Germany.
No, but that is Europe. Europe is a strategic partner of the United States. So if it could happen in Europe, but under Trump, exactly they are not. Sure. You understand? So it will tell you that perhaps the American intelligence agency, we are up to their game. The same thing that happened in France, is traceable to the same, you know, factors of, you know, terrorism in the Middle East and the rest. So yes, these things are there, but the reality is the possibility. And you know why America is exceedingly afraid of, you know, international terrorism? After the collapse of the Soviet Union, the Soviet Union was, you know, a singular threat that America faced as a nation at that particular point in time because of the existence of ICBMs, International Continental Ballistic Missiles, and the rest. The fact that there was this issue, you know, of a mutually assured destruction, you know, and of course, all it needed was just to press a few buttons and you destroy the entire United States and then the Soviet Union and the rest. But after that, and international global terrorism came on the scene, it became almost as dangerous as the United States. And the fear is that somebody, if care is not taken, could just walk into the United States with just a small briefcase, you know, and blow up an entire city
and do what America has always been afraid of. Okay, so let's just put a hold on that, and we'll take a very quick break and return with more on this. But we're going to move on to how all of these policies, especially the immigration policy, will affect Nigeria.
Nigeria and even Africa. Stay with us on the program.
All right, it's been one executive order to another. We've lost count, actually, in less than 2 weeks of President Donald Trump's emergence as the U.S. president. Now, how do all of these policies, especially the immigration policy, how does it affect Nigeria directly? That's what we want to find out, especially now that we've not really heard anything coming from the federal government. Achike and Curtis are here to discuss this. Achike, okay, let's start with you, Curtis.
Well, see, he signed so many executive orders that it's like looking for a needle in a haystack and to understand what the issues are. I mean, what he signed on Obamacare, nobody understands what it means. It says, look, federal agencies can disobey the law. Nobody actually understands what that means. Now, on immigration, we know that he listed some countries and he said, look, 90 days, 120 days, this will happen.
Yeah.
But on other countries, it talked about the doctrine of reciprocity. Which is to say, America will treat
you the way
you treat America. And if you look at that, for instance, the instant visa policy we have in place right now with America is that American wishing to come to Nigeria will only apply and get 1 year, multiple entries. In Nigeria going to America, we get 2 years, multiple entries. What that means is that there will be a revision, and Nigeria, our visa will be cut down to 1 year. And the fees will also go up because why are we charging Americans $180? They're charging us $160 now.
About 215 with the processing fees
and all that. But you know, the processing fees go to the banks and all that. What goes to the embassy is exactly what they look at. So that is the implication. And then the other implication for us is that we have Boko Haram in this country. All right? It's not beyond President Trump to say because we've had the activities, Boko Haram operating in Nigeria, that we're also a terrorist country. And what that means is that Nigeria can be included in that list. And
well,
we are banned.
So far he has not done
He has not done that. And then we're also going to go through extreme vetting at the airport. You know, it means that if you are traveling from this country now to the United States, and look, let's not get this wrong. I think every country has a responsibility to secure our border and to prevent undesirable elements from coming into the country. You have the right to secure your country. But what we are saying is that when you become xenophobic, you're targeting a particular group of people, using one brush to tar everybody, notwithstanding their individual circumstances. That's the problem here. And like I mentioned when we were off camera, look, there wouldn't have been refugees if America did not go to these countries. And now is America abandoning the responsibility to the world? Donald Trump must understand something, that when you sit in the White House and in the Oval Office, you have got two key elements: the power of the presidency and the responsibility of the presidency. It seems to be carried away by the power of the presidency and not looking at the responsibility of the presidency.
Yeah. Okay, I think Achike,
let me. A country is America is a country of institutions. If you remember Obama's visit to Ghana, where he made that famous statement about building institutions and not strong men. He was coming from a country where institutions had been built, and so when you have institutions being built, you cannot in the long run act like a dictator, because institutions of state, institutions of governance
already on the ground.
And these are institutions that have been built over a period of 200 years and so on. So somewhere along the line, there are no two ways about it. The reality is that Donald Trump is tapping into something, within the American political life, whether that thing is good or not. He's tapping into it, and that was why he won the election. But the reality is that when there's something, there's one thing to come up with a policy. After some time, you begin to look at the merits and the demerits of this, policy, and then you begin to also tinker with policy. That is the essence. Policies are not put in place; they are not the know-it-all, that somebody comes up with, and so on. That is the essence. And as we see the agitations and we see some of the downsides of some of these things that he's doing, they will begin to tinker with them over a period of time. But the basic philosophy behind what he has been doing, you cannot exactly fault it. It is the how he has been doing it that has been a problem. Now, in the past in this country, we have not had an ideal situation, where Nigerians continue to queue up at embassies at odd hours of the day because they want to check out of this country. This thing that is going on in the United States also provokes us, or should provoke us to deep reflection and deep thinking about what we need to do with our own society.
And that's the point.
Ultimately.
Are you concerned that it seems not to be doing that? We're not even hearing anything from the federal government.
No, we hope we will soon.
Okay.
It is like they fall in the price of crude oil. The fact that economic growth in Nigeria has receded because of the fall in the prices of oil and so on. And a lot of Nigerians are secretly happy because the questions have been asked all of this while. Is oil a blessing or a curse in Nigeria? And I think the conclusion has been that oil has been a curse in Nigeria. So people are saying, look, let the price of oil go. Let oil even disappear from this country, and then let us begin to look inwards. So things like this, as long as you feel and we feel that the United States and Western Europe and other parts of the world would continue to provide safe haven for the citizens of this country, then the tendency for the people to struggle, whether politically or whatever, to try to build a country that can accommodate their interests and their dreams, hopes and aspirations will not be there. And so we need this kind of shock therapy to also encourage some of us that we need to do something about our country and not continue to run to other countries that are flourishing, that have been made great by their own citizens.
Therapy, is it not likely to be counterproductive? You have the rest of the world, especially, hold on, sorry. African leaders are watching Donald Trump make some of these moves. And some are already saying, many of these moves they're anything but democratic. Executive orders and all of that. Like, for example, he doesn't have a Secretary of State in place. An acting Attorney General has been sacked because of this same policy. What do you think this will signal to, especially African leaders?
What Donald Trump has done to America in the last 10 days, all right, has confirmed the fears of President Obama. During the campaigns, President Obama made the comment, he said, look, he's worried about Donald Trump because he doesn't even seem to understand the nuances of the president, of the office of the President of the United States. It's a sobering effect. Look, like you said, he doesn't have an Attorney General in place because his nominee, Jeff Sessions, is going to go through the Senate today. It's a lot of problem he's having because of his previous records. His CIA Director, Pompeo, just came through. Now, the problem with what he's doing is that, look, America is built on shared prosperity. America is built on inclusiveness. And that is not only to Americans. America is a world leader because America is good. America will not turn away its back on her shared responsibility from the world. Now he's come and he said, look, we don't need you. Just imagine for a moment, how will Facebook be a global company if America was not trading in other parts of the world? How would Google? And this is why all the top...
And even Twitter, that has become...
All of them are up against him.
More.
In fact, yesterday, Google donated $4 million into the effort to fight against him. Yeah. And we are seeing very senior Republican senators, Senator Bob Corker, one of the earliest to support Donald Trump, said Trump is out of step and that even his order was not properly vetted. We are hearing people from Senator John McCain, Senator Lindsey Graham, Senator Jeff Sessions. These are top.
Charles Schumer.
Chuck Schumer cried and said the Statue of Liberty is now weeping. And what did Donald Trump say? The President of America tweeted and said, I don't know who is your coaching actor, but your tears are fake. Look, he talked about institutions, and that's where he's going to have a problem. Can you ever imagine an acting Attorney General defying the president in Nigeria? It happened in America because the attitude of an average American to his job is different from that of ours. There are institutions, and that's why you hear Mr. Brennan, the former CIA director, calling him a disgrace.
All right. So, we don't have all the time right now. Before I come to Achike on this, Curtis, it is said that a lot of people have said that, in fact, it is on record that Donald Trump has not really had experience in politics. He's coming in for the first time. But that is not to say he doesn't have what it takes to be a president. But being there, what would he or what should he have done differently?
Look, you don't have to be knowledgeable in every field. The job of a leader Leadership is defined as authoritative allocation of resources. You've got resources, but you have to allocate them in such a way that they work. Every government or administration has got large pool of expertise in America that you indeed can pull from them and they will guide you. Yep. So he doesn't need to be an experienced politician to be president, but he needs good judgment and he needs ability to reason, and then he also needs to calm down, to depend on his advisors.
So some are already saying, look, running a country is different from running a company.
A business, because look, you say you are going to train
successfully. Now, is America at risk of making more enemies than friends? And where do you think Nigeria will be in this whole affair?
Well, I think there is an irony here, because America has always made enemies because of its engagement with the world, because of the attempt to push its economic agenda. And of course, you know that America, is the American philosophical construct is based on the issue of democracy from their own perspective, free market economy, the rule of law, and all of those things. Now, in trying to project these things to other parts of the world, they have had to do it in ways that were antithetical to the interests of other countries. And that has led to them building, enemies, all over the place. But this will be a different kind of problem he's going to have.
All right, Achike, Chude, thank you very much. Time will not permit us to go further on this, but we thank you for coming, Achike Chude. And Curtis Adigba, thank you for coming on the program as well.
Thank you so much.
We will go on a break, and then we come back to dwell more on other topics. But certainly don't forget that top of the hour will be time for us to go for the news update with Aziza.